everybody. Before we start this episode, we just wanted to take a quick second and mourn the passing of Sid Haig. If you are a movie nerd, you probably know Sid's work in House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects, Three from Hell, Kill Bill Volume 2, Bone Tomahawk. He was in the remake of Halloween, Jackie Brown. And those were the movies he was in after his resurgence, but early on in his career, he did Point Blank, THX 1138, George Lucas's first film.
That's right.
The Big Birdcage, The Big Dollhouse, Black Mama, White Mama, Coffee and Foxy Brown, a couple of movies with Pam Grier.
Nice.
I knew Sid personally, and just wanted to give him a shout out. So in the near future, we will have a bit of a Sid Haig tribute in particular. So be on the lookout for that episode. Anyways, sorry to bring it down, but enjoy Othello.
Yeah. On with the show. Hello, and welcome to Creating Canon, with your hosts, AJ Hamilton, and neither here nor Pappas.
I am here.
Neither here nor there.
No, but I'm looking at you, you're looking at me.
So the reason why I say that is because the phrase existed before Othello, but the phrase was popularized, the phrase neither here nor there was popularized by the classic Shakespearean play Othello.
You fucking nerd.
I am a nerd, although that was never said in this movie.
That you're a nerd?
Well,
I mean, that's just what we would call, like, basic exposition. Like, that's a thing that everyone knows. We don't need to tell people that you're a nerd. They just know.
That's true. Oh, sorry. And Nicholas C. Pappas.
You know what? If you were going to do that or not, to me, it's neither here nor there. Oh, boom!
Now,
boom!
Now, I thought you were going to do it 3 times. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, now, when you told me a while ago that we were going to watch Othello, I was like, oh, do you mean Othello, the famous opera directed by Franco Zeffirelli?
Yep.
And you said no.
I laughed in your face.
You laughed at me. Then
that is a canon film.
It is.
Like the Othello, Zeffirelli does beautiful work with Shakespeare. Like, we all probably watched his version of Romeo and Juliet
in high school. Totally.
And then we're shocked that there were boobies on screen.
What? Yeah.
Oh, man. But, we all probably saw that version. It's actually a legitimately great version.
Yeah, I mean, and eventually we will get to that.
Yeah.
And then I thought the Lawrence Fishburne one, and you were like, no, that's not canon.
No.
And that was in 95, so that was after canon.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wait, the Orson Welles one?
And I said, that's before canon.
That's 1952.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, hold on. What about the Anthony Hopkins one? That was like 1986. That's right in the middle there. Could that possibly be it?
No, because Anthony Hopkins is white.
Oh, that's true. Okay. So then I was like, what the hell? What could this possibly be? Raul Julia?
No.
James Earl Jones?
I was like...
any of these?
I was like, AJ, shut up and let me get a word in.
No!
And he was like, okay.
All right, go ahead.
And then I said, no.
Patrick Stewart?
And then I said yes.
Mekhi Phifer?
I said, well, the Mekhi Phifer one's actually really good.
No, I know.
But
Very cool.
Odin.
That's right.
With Julia Stiles. Directed by Tim Blake
and
Nelson.
Josh Hartnett?
Yep, that's right. Directed by Tim Blake Nelson, who was probably most known for playing Pete turned into a horny toad.
Thought you was a toad. In Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yep.
Interestingly,
Oh.
All right. Also,
although that was based on the Odyssey, not Othello.
That's true, and he was also essentially the leader in MCU's The Hulk.
Yes, that
the
is
Incredible
right.
Hulk, not Ang Lee's Hulk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is right. I love Tim Blake Nelson.
And The Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Yeah.
Oh, he's great.
He also directed this really great movie called The Gray Zone.
Okay.
Starring David Arquette. Which is weird because the movie is about the Sonder Commando.
Oh.
Which was a group of Jewish folks who were interned in a concentration camp.
Yeah.
Who were the ones who were charged with basically helping lead the Jews into the ovens and then cleaning up afterwards. And it was about one of the only uprisings ever in a camp where the Sonder commandos were like, we can't fucking do this anymore.
Oh, wow.
It's a dark, wonderful movie based off of a play that he also wrote.
Jesus, what a guy.
And it's too bad that we spent all of that time talking about all of these awesome things, because what we need to discuss is Othello, the Black Commando. 1982, written and directed by Max-Henri Bouillot.
Okay.
I mean,
also
he's
starring
French.
him.
Yeah, and also starring him
He's from Martinique, actually.
Well,
but
he's...
Yes.
Yeah, okay. But his name is French.
Indeed it is.
I don't mean to disregard Martinique.
No.
Well, I was the pronunciation.
He kind of disregarded it by shortening his name to Max B.
Max B.
That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a real fucking crazy movie.
It is. It is. Before we jump into it, do you want to explain to us what the hell
the plot is about?
The plot is?
Yeah. All
okay.
Right. A racist colonel tries to rise up the ranks by using the power of human sexuality, jealousy, and racism. Tony Curtis is racist in Othello, the Black Commando. Now, I don't know if Tony Curtis is actually racist, to be very clear.
Tony Curtis
but in the movie,
portraying someone who's racist in this movie.
Yeah, he plays Iago. Yeah. So, I mean... And we should throw out, probably right now, but like, if we're going to discuss this movie, there are going to be themes of racist words.
Yeah. And racist and disparaging words of other cultures and people.
Predominantly black folks.
True.
So, we are not going to say these words, but some of the quotes that we've written down, we are going to talk about them, because I think
it's a big part of this movie.
Yeah,
and
it's huge.
The time and
there's no way we could. I actually thought about, can we avoid this conversation? Part of the conversation?
Nope.
Not
it
even
is
close.
Absolutely ridiculously blatant.
Yeah.
And we will do our best to be the best human beings we can through this.
The movie, we should mention, is free on Amazon Prime. Don't take us up on it. No. But I mean, if you want to.
Are we already doing our recommendations?
We'll
see if it changes by the end of it. But I agree. Yeah. Already.
Yeah, we should just hop into it, because I don't think we should just go straight into it.
No, the preamble is over.
Yeah.
Holy crap, man.
Yeah. We're just having a hard time discussing this.
I think the first thing we got to discuss is the opening credits.
Oh my god, can we please? You know what I just realized?
Yeah.
If we just discuss this movie as is, using the language of the film, like on our podcast, there is no way we're ever getting on SNL.
It's true. That's true. Hopefully they would take it into context. And
well, no. I think
honestly,
I think it would be contextual. We are contextualizing it in the guise of the movie. But
also, I don't think they'd vet us that hard anyway, apparently.
Yeah, that's true. Apparently, they don't care.
But regardless of SNL, let's jump into the beginning of this movie where...
the opening credits.
Oh my god. So, first of all, there's a few things that are hilarious.
Oh my god. Did you... My first 5 notes are all about the opening credits.
It's great. It's fantastic. First of all, it says... It claims to be based on the Shakespearean drama Othello, which is funny for a couple of things, because he didn't have dramas, he had tragedies or comedies or histories, which just shows the kind of ignorance of the person tackling the material already, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, sure. It is weird that they would use drama although right? I wonder if that is a translation thing.
What was this?
Well, if French is his first language.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay.
But you're right, because it does say the exact line is based on the drama by William Shakespeare.
Right, and then the exact next statement is scored by Ludwig von Beethoven.
Oh my god.
And it sure is. But we'll get to that.
I mean, that is a way to get around the free scoring. I mean, like
I'm going to put it all throughout this episode.
Well, it's so weird to be like, it's scored... Let's put it all through the episode.
Oh, yeah.
It's so weird to say that it's scored by Ludwig von Beethoven, because it's not you are using the music of someone else to create the thing.
Yeah, he didn't actively score it.
He didn't
right?
actively create music for it.
No.
Yeah, it's weird that you would do that.
Yes.
A couple of other things that I found really hysterical in the opening credits that, like, just for whatever reason, threw me off big time. The first credit that comes up is Tony Curtis as Iago.
Sure.
Right? Just written on the screen, normal. And then the next credit that comes up is Joanna Petit, parenthesis, as Desdemona, end parenthesis. And then it went Max H. Beaulieu, parenthesis, as Othello, end parenthesis. And it was just weird to me that Tony Curtis didn't get parentheses around his character, but then the other two did. And then later on, as it's listing all of the names, all of a sudden just one of the names, Gerard Bourret, all of a sudden has just a box around it. And no other name in the entire opening credits had a box around it.
Who designed this?
I was like, this is insane.
Also, it's flashing between these weird Baroque paintings of, I guess, Othello?
You know what's really weird is I was so obsessed with the typos, the mistakes, the weird things, the fact that it said based on the drama by William Shakespeare and music by Ludwig. When it said music by Ludwig van Beethoven, I actually thought this is going to be the longest hour and a half of my life.
Well, because it's not just... The thing about the drama, maybe misunderstanding, whatever, but it's so...
Pretentious?
Pretentious, yes, thank you very much. It's so freaking pretentious to say, oh, Ludwig, my friend, he scored this for me.
You know, I call him Luddy.
Luddy.
Luddy von B.
Wiggy wiggy on the weekends. It just... he made this specifically for me, and it's the most unskilled use of Beethoven that I've ever heard, first of all. I mean, even the movie Beethoven with the dog uses it better, I would say. Not the sequels, those are trash, but the first one...
Fuck you, Beethoven's second was awesome.
Beethoven the second was awesome.
Yeah, it was once we got to the third, that's when it really...
went down.
That jumped the shark.
That's right.
My favorite part of the movie, too, is, like, the entire, like... There is not one moment of, like, the first 25 minutes that isn't, like, packed wall-to-wall with, like, Beethoven scores.
Yes, and then they sort of drop off from that.
For a long time. But then there's the one time where there's, and I'm cutting ahead, but at the party, it's like, well, it's definitely not Beethoven.
It's a cover of Evil Ways by Santana. But there's also another song that, oddly, we found out just today, before we recorded this, that Max B, is what I'm going to call him, he also wrote a song called Banana to Coco. And it kind of, we haven't compared it yet.
But it sounds
a lot like
similar.
it. He was an attempted jack of all trades. He's an actor. He's the main character.
Yep, he's
the writer. He's the director. He claims, or his Wikipedia page claims that he's a journalist as well.
Really?
And a writer, if not a performer of music. So, a lot of hats.
Yeah.
A lot of freaking hats.
You need a hat rack for that.
I'm surprised he wasn't playing at his wedding in the middle of the movie.
I'm curious, because what is that phrase? You need 1,000 hours to become an expert at something?
10,000.
It's 10,000
according
hours?
to Gladwell.
Okay, yeah. Because he really needed to spend a few more hours on just at least one of those things.
One of those, absolutely.
Because jack of all trades...
Master of none.
Master of none.
Anyway, so this movie opens up with the most...
horrible helicopter shot I've ever seen in my entire life?
Even before that. Because I'm sure everyone who watched this would forget about it. But there's about a 20-second clip of, if you've seen Iron Man, it feels like the convoy of the Humvees driving throughout some land. We don't know what this land is. There's no context.
I
Out
actually
of context
still don't
completely.
know what this land is.
It's a place in Africa called Tiboutti or something like that. I don't remember. No, probably not.
Because
it was filmed in Madrid, the French Caribbean, and New York. So I don't know where this is, but it's claiming to be Africa. Regardless of that,
but is the whole movie in Africa? Because I was really confused. Because I'm at least 99% sure that the guy who's throwing the party in, like, the country they're staying in is not Africa. That is actually South America.
Something
and then they
like
go
that.
to Africa to help Desdemona out, and then they come back to South America.
No, absolutely.
I could be wrong.
She starts out in New York, Desdemona.
Is that where she's...
Well, because they're flying over the skyline.
Right.
Right?
That's right. That's right.
But like I said, it's
in a helicopter.
Yes.
That then lands
in
South America.
South America, I suppose.
Fucking.
But this
shit.
first convoy
Who takes a helicopter?
I don't know.
I know you're trying to get this thing out. I'm sorry, but from New York to South America.
Well, it also might be an island.
Are made to work that way.
It might be a Bahamian island or French Caribbean, something like that. That's what I'm thinking, because we do see a lot of the coast.
But then why are they there?
Extradition.
Extradition for what? I mean, we find out in the movie that Black Commandos
are
Green Berets.
Right.
So
maybe they're mercenaries?
But they're Green Berets. They're part of the
army. Maybe they were trained as Green Berets, but
they're still he's still a general in the army.
I don't know, man.
He's still a general in the army. This movie,
we never see him communicate with anybody outside of his commando ranks.
No, but he loses his rank towards the end of the movie. They take him out.
Oh, you're
they
right.
install Iago into power, and they put him
so there is somebody
else.
above him. That's true. Damn it.
Ugh.
Whatever. Okay, so
anyways,
this movie starts with out of context bombing of a convoy.
Oh, that's right.
Just like that's what I was trying to say with the Iron Man thing.
Why didn't you get to it?
Yeah, you're right.
Jesus Christ.
But
don't let me interrupt you.
And
no, keep going.
Sure. But there's no
just get it out.
There's no I'm going to mute you. I am the editor of this. I will mute you all the way. Anyway, so let's first of all say the pyrotechnics in this, throughout the movie, are probably some of the poorest pyrotechnics I've ever seen.
It's like one guy with a lighter.
In fact, the fireworks at the wedding are better pyrotechnics than anything used throughout the rest of this, because mostly it looks like smoke bombs.
Yeah.
Right? There's no fire involved. I don't think that they could afford to destroy anything, even land.
Well,
so they just had just throw dust at people.
Though, but I'm just going to throw out there, they did destroy one thing.
What's that? My heart?
Tony Curtis's entire reputation and career.
That's true.
Boom! Take that, Tony Curtis.
All that goodwill that you created with Some Like It Hot and Sweet Smell of Success and Spartacus. I was just listing.
It's called Sporadicus.
Sporadicus?
Yeah.
Okay, I
saw Clueless.
Here and there.
That was a better movie. You know what? We should just talk about Clueless instead. I saw that once. Not once. I've seen that movie probably 50 times. It still holds up today.
Yeah. I would say the exposition of this movie... I'm sorry, I'm just ignoring you.
Damn you.
The exposition of this movie is some of the poorest also that I've ever seen, because it is done... probably 90% like ADR.
Yeah.
But it's done by poor actors.
Yeah.
So
and not actors who are not wealthy.
No, right, correct. Although I can't imagine they're making their money off of acting.
Tony Curtis did.
Oh, yeah, he definitely did. But I'm saying, what's his name? Colonel Montano.
Is he the one who's the, South American dictator kind of guy?
Ish. Yeah, he's the leader of
What was up with his voice?
Dude, half the time. And it faded in and out, too. Yes. I could go through every single aspect of this movie and rip it apart, because the sound mixing is horrible. Whenever they land in a helicopter, it's like they turned the sound of the helicopter up. Even if they dubbed all of their lines in, they kept the sound of the helicopter as loud as they possibly could.
Well, this is the part that drove me up a tree with that, because the helicopter would be like... I know you thought Michael Winslow was here for a second. That was so... Yeah. And they would be like the actors wouldn't be shouting or anything.
Yes.
They'd just be like, "Oh, hey, Othello, how are you? I'm very good. How are you?"
Like in Bridge to Hell, where they're yelling back and forth between the biplanes.
Yes, at least they were yelling.
That's true.
In this case, there's a helicopter going off next to them, and they're having a conversation at normal volume.
Oh, yeah, and they didn't even equalize it. They didn't say, let's make them louder and then fade out the helicopter.
You shout. I've seen actors in hundreds of movies where they're
sure.
"Is this the way we get on the and they're like,
"Who are you?"
Right,
yeah.
And they didn't do that. By the way, the shots in the helicopter when they first land on the island were so bad. There were moments where the entire face of the person talking was cut off by part of the helicopter window.
Yes.
And then would cut to the other side, And, like, you couldn't, like, the face was distorted because it was shot through it was almost like they were like, we got a helicopter. Let's show that we got a helicopter. But, Max, there's no way that you can shoot through that window without distorting everyone's faces or obscuring them. He went,
that's the part of the art.
we have a helicopter.
We have a helicopter. Come on.
So let's use it.
Also, before we go on, imagine how we had to, since if you haven't seen it, imagine seeing a bootleg
Of a bootleg.
of a bootleg.
It's like someone bootlegged a bootlegged?
Bootlegged.
Bootlegged a bootlegged.
A bootlegged. Yep. It's like somebody snuck in a VHS camera into a VHS showing in a movie theater. There's the scratches and pops of film, which I love.
Yeah.
That's a super cool way to see movies.
I love it too.
But then it's sampled down to whatever the hell it looks like 480.
Yeah.
And it's also cut off.
Yeah, it's like tracking lines
It's
on top
4x3.
of tracking lines.
Exactly. Oh, and they have no idea how to shoot day for night. There
was that one scene where there was like the battle.
Yeah.
And I had no clue what was going on.
It was
so
essentially
dark.
3/4 of the whole thing were, maybe more than that were just like black screen. And I was like, okay, so something must be happening.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that guy died.
Or did he?
Or is that a guy?
Or what is that?
Don't know.
But we've cut ahead again.
God damn.
I gotta say, I wrote down probably 3 times the filming of this is making me sick.
Yeah.
Because there was also moments where what it looked like they did was they mounted a camera onto the dashboard of a car. And if you do that, the camera will shake with the car.
Yes.
But if you're not in the car, you don't feel the... it made me sick. Like, this movie actually made me physically ill at least 3 or 4 times. And not all of it was necessarily the camera work, but most of it was.
Yeah.
Then there's that scene where Desdemona and Othello meet each other. Othello meet each other for the first time, and we hear their thoughts, and we're like, those weird close-ups on their eyes that just kept going closer and closer and closer and closer until, like, the camera was so up onto their eyes, it almost looked like it was gonna, like... It wouldn't have surprised me if they would have continued that shot through the brain and the back of the head. Like, that's how close up we got. And we got...
I thought it was going to hit them.
I did too.
Like, if this was
like
a Naked Gun
movie.
Hey. Oh.
And we got such gems as Othello looking at her going, she thinks she's a feminist.
Yeah, they're just running down each other's dossier, essentially, and, judging each other.
How the fuck did they know this about each other? They have just met.
Yeah.
And they're like, she thinks she's a feminist and she's got a rich daddy.
I mean, it feels almost like they're trying to do a little bit of Sherlock, where it's like, oh, I'm judging. But clearly, you would have to know these things. You would have to have read up on these people. And I would assume that there was some sort of conversation in between, but it's not Google times. It's not like they could have easily found these dossiers on these people. I don't understand it.
We should mention the whole point of her being there. So there's the explosions, and she is some
also at that point, when they're doing that overdubbing
faces,
it's the loudest music. I think Ludi should have backed off on that.
Yeah.
He was
Ludwig,
I don't know.
Some of this felt really big for some of the scenes, and I don't know why Ludwig did what he did.
I don't know. Like
they probably were best served as some sort of symphony or concerto.
Sure.
And not for the overdubbing of this movie, but that's a different story.
But I'm sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, we should mention that we find out the reason she's there is she's a doctor, Doctors Without Borders, she's a do-gooder, philanthropist kind of person who wants to go into Africa and give people medication.
Because there's some sort of conflict going on right now?
Question mark? And there's some sort of disease broken out? Question mark?
Sure.
And she needs Othello's and his men and his band of merry men to be their guards in Africa.
Yeah.
So she shows up, and that's the thing, though, like, what's weird about it is, like, she shows up and she's like, will you do this for us? And then it cuts up close to her face, and she's like, that stupid fucking idiot wouldn't do anything. He's just a dumb asshole.
He's just in it for the money or something.
That's all he does. He's just a murderer. And then it cuts to him.
What a boorish man.
Yeah, what a boorish man. And then it cuts to her, like, him looking at her and him being like, oh, she thinks she's a feminist.
Daddy's girl.
But she's just a daddy's girl, and what a butthead. And whatnot. And they hate each other for no fucking reason.
Yeah.
No reason.
No.
And it continues
you know what
to the point where they are in so then that's when we cut to the scene that's so dark we can't see, is when Othello is trying to get into that country, wherever it is.
Yeah.
Doing whatever he was doing. He does his job, he gets her in, she's trying to help these people out, and he's like, it's time to go, we're gonna be in danger. Which then she turns to him, looks him in the eye, and goes, "These men will lynch you."
I know. Yep, I wrote that down too.
That was the first time where I was like, "What? What is happening? You cannot say that. You can't say that. That's not allowed."
Guys, also, I don't know if guys and ladies and everybody in between, I want you to all know that Max B, he directed this and he starred in this, but he also wrote the dialogue.
Yeah.
He claims also that Shakespeare wrote story. So
yeah, well, that's what he did say, that based on the drama. So
that's true. So he chose to have that said.
Yes, he chose to have a lot of these, and I guess I get it. There is a point where Iago has to say these things to a certain extent
to be a villain.
But I don't know why Desdemona, who is supposedly Othello's love interest, these two hate each other, and then he does something to save her, and all of a sudden, instantly he saves her, and they're in love. Well, and then they're getting married.
It's interesting because it starts out as almost a Beatrice Benedict relationship. But in the play, we're going to jump around maybe a little bit. I haven't seen the play in a long time or read the play, but I do remember certain parts of it. And I don't remember there being a contentious relationship at the beginning of...
I believe, if I remember the play, they started off married.
Or had just gotten married. Yeah, I think so.
And the reason the play works is because they are so fucking head over heels in love with each other.
Exactly.
That the question then becomes Othello,
what
how
could
you
them apart?
Ever in a million years think this woman who loves you so much would ever cheat on you?
Yeah.
This movie, they despise each other. He saves her, and then they get married, basically. And it doesn't make sense because then we question their entire relationship, because their relationship isn't built on true love. It is completely based off of a traumatic experience that they shared together.
Yep. And that's always the truest of love. Yeah. We know this.
I kept writing, who the fuck are they fighting? Where are they at?
Well, there is... So they go in, they land, there is a group of soldiers and people, I guess, in some sort of...
I'm so sorry. I'm now even lost of where we are at.
Yeah, me too. Because also the filming geography in this is just so poor. You never know where anything ever is. So they land in Africa, they meet up, they raid this place. I don't know if they kill anybody because, again, I couldn't see.
So dark.
But they go in and they're like, hey, we're here to allow the Red Cross to go through, and we're essentially helping you. So, of course, we had to break in and,
practically
murder you, hold you at gunpoint. But then they are attacked by another group of people, two groups of people, it seemed like. There seemed to be, and I did pick up on a couple of German words, which didn't make sense to me. I don't know what time period this was supposed to be.
I think it was supposed to be contemporary to the time, which was the 80s.
What I thought.
This was made in 82.
Right. And so I still don't know. It doesn't even matter, I suppose, but it is an unnamed conflict.
I think it matters in the long run.
Does it?
Okay. So I don't know if it matters for the story of Othello, but where it does matter is when I'm sitting there going, wait, where are we?
Yep.
Wait, where are they going
What
back to?
What are the dynamics?
What are the stakes of this?
Yeah.
Because she is this person who's helping everybody out, and that's all she cares about in the beginning. And then once Othello saves her and they get married, she gives fuck all about anybody or everything. All she wants to do is hang out with Othello.
Yeah.
Or
she's done with her thing.
Yeah, she's done with being I tried it, and I'm done with it.
Yeah. She's like a dilettante, just trying here and there. Yeah.
I kept wondering how the fuck they got Tony Curtis to do this movie. Especially when he had to say things like, Othello has now saved her.
They've moved back to...
wherever they started? South America, ?
Island place.
We see a fun montage of them falling in love, and Tony Curtis watches, and I'm just quoting here, so... please understand that, but these are the kinds of lines. Oh, here they come, the beauty and the beast. Look, that mongrel dog. And he says it almost as if it's funny. Like, he delivers it like it's a punchline.
Yeah.
And then he mentions his chimpanzee hands and thick lips, and he delivers that as a punchline.
Yep.
And I think that was one of the things that also just kept confusing me is, like, so first of all, I feel like Tony Curtis thought he was going to win an Oscar for this movie because he was fucking going for it in every scene.
It's like he is on stage. He is acting this as if it was a classical.
Yes.
He's translated. Well, Max B has translated all of these lines, essentially. I didn't go back through the script to see if there was any similarities between the dialogue.
He drops into Shakespeare. They actually drop into Shakespearean iambic pentameter.
Essentially.
A couple of times. There's like that whole monologue that Tony Curtis has, where that's the one where I was like, oh, that's how they got Tony Curtis to do this.
Right.
He thought he was going to win an Oscar. Instead of he should have asked to see the dailies.
Yep.
Because he would have known what the fuck was going on.
Well, at that point, he uses the N-word.
Yes.
As well.
He used the N-word like 3 or 4 times.
It's only twice. I counted.
Okay.
But
it felt like more.
I know. Well, all of the epithets and
that's true.
The ways, like calling him a chimpanzee is almost as bad. You know,
that's true.
That's why it felt like that. I think is the overall tone of this, and he says it to Emily.
Emily? Question mark?
Who stands in for Amelia? She's the analog of Amelia in the play.
But like he's just talking to this woman.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I laughed really loud a couple of times because he's doing this like monologue and he's saying all these horrible things, which I didn't laugh at that.
Yeah.
What I laughed at was he's doing it and he's shot in this room all alone.
As he's looking through the window.
And then all of a sudden, like, after like 4 minutes of him going off, like, monologuing to seemingly no one, it cuts to her sitting there watching him.
Just in the bed.
And I laughed because I was like, wait, there's someone in the room?
You're saying this? 2 people?
2 people? And then it would just cut back to him. And then I started asking myself, because there's several times in this movie where, like, in the middle of the party scene, too, is another example where, like, there's people everywhere in all the shots, and then Tony Curtis is standing there alone with no one around him. And I was like, was he ever actually on set? Or was he just in, like, different dark rooms?
Well, it also, this is the funny thing about Shakespeare and trying to modernize it, is the impracticality and specific to stagecraft that a soliloquy is.
Yes.
Like a monologue or a soliloquy is almost unfilmable, I would say. I mean, it's really hard to commit to it and not have it be an odd thing, like people walking around and like, unless it is surrealism.
Yeah.
In realism movies, it's very hard to have somebody speak to themselves in a monologue sense.
Yeah, yes and no, because I think it is possible. It just has to be well written. Because I mean, if you think of the infamous "Are you talking to me?" Taxi Driver, it's just him looking into a mirror.
Oh, sure.
And it's so good and captivating. So I think it is. I don't want to take away from what you're saying because I actually agree with you. It's
I mean
when it's good, it's good.
What I mean, and this is the difference, is that is a realistic. That's him talking to himself. That's not like an inner monologue coming out.
Got it. I see exactly what you mean.
I think that is true to that situation.
Sure.
We've all said, yeah, you're looking good today. In the mirror, he's actually talking to himself.
You've said that?
No, I've heard other people have said that to themselves.
I mean, no, it's fine if you think you look good today.
No, I don't. My hair's not, it's just not doing what I want it to.
Your hair looks good today.
Yeah, well, thank you.
It's really nice. I actually thought that earlier when I first came in. I thought to myself, oh, AJ did his hair today.
I was not fishing for compliments, but I thank you.
You're welcome.
I thank you.
I would like you to keep this into the podcast. Most of the time I'm mean to you. I want people to know that I can be nice to you every once in a while.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Look at you, dropping that heart of stone.
Yes. Well, I didn't want to be all Iago on you, so I thought I'd go a different direction.
Well, that's nice of you. Thank you. Jumping back in.
Yeah, that's what I was
guess
trying to do.
to Tony Curtis.
Well, yeah,
there's so much to say about him.
There's so much to say about him.
But also, he's we don't get any sense of that from any of the beginning, because he is on the battlefield with them. He is a fellow soldier.
There is no
with Othello.
There are no looks towards Othello, like I hate you or anything.
Yeah.
In fact, he's very, very into like Othello at the beginning, it seems, and all of a
Kinda,
sudden he's out of nowhere changes.
And actually, we sort of see this one thing as they're escaping from that African country. Desdemona says,
or Dee,
or Dee, as they shorten it, tends to Othello's wounds. And we see this weird side eye from Iago. We see from Tony Curtis. And I was like, oh, is that the beginning of it? Does he have a crush on her? Is that what's happening?
I actually think it's something else. Oh, one other thing about Tony Curtis.
Absolutely is, yeah.
One other thing about Tony Curtis' performance that I want to put out there that I think is really interesting is he is the most touchy-feely soldier I've ever seen in my entire life. And like he's constantly like walking up to other soldiers, like rubbing them on the shoulders or on the back and being like, listen, I gotta tell you something about Othello is the thing about Othello is the thing. And he's like doing that like buddy weird thing where I'm thinking you would get punched in the face as a soldier if you were doing that all the time. Here's when I go back to looping around with the Othello side eye.
Yeah.
And I think what it is that he is unhappy that a black man is dating a white woman.
Okay, sure.
And the reason I say that is because that sort of becomes a little solidified when her father arrives out of nowhere.
Oh, sure.
And that scene is from about 30 minutes to 32 minutes, which is nothing but racism.
Yep.
And that's when I wrote down, this is after Tony Curtis has said a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Where I wrote down, oh, wow, this movie is racist as fuck.
Fuck yeah.
Down to things like, well, first of all, I laughed so hard when Dee Dee's dad, who's a senator, comes in, and he's like, and it's terrible. This part's terrible, where he's like, you've kidnapped my daughter. Look at this black man. He's kidnapped my daughter. And like he said other worse things. I'm just kind of giving the very light
definitely
version.
Dropped the N-bomb.
Yeah. And then she walks up and she goes, Dad, you can't come chase me with the 7th Cavalry every time I have an affair.
Oh.
I laughed so hard at that line because the look on Othello's face was like, wait.
What is this?
Every time?
Huh?
How many times has this happened? And then there's this thing where the dad goes something like, I can't believe, and because she's like, I'm not kidnapped, I'm dating him, I'm in love with him. And the dad's like, right?
Fill in racist rant there.
Well, no, because there is no racist rant. He's just shocked because then Desdemona says the line,
what is it? Because he's a black man?
No, it's even better.
What is it?
It's even better. I know it's hard to say, Daddy. I've done it.
Yeah.
I've slept with a black man. That was another one where I was like, this is racist as fuck.
Such a weird...
But it was like it was so shocking
if
and
they
weird.
Weren't married, it almost feels as if she's like, I'm just giving him a fling. I'm just sleeping with the black guy a try.
We don't even know they're married at this point.
She says it. That's how that scene ends.
Later, it's how that scene ends. Like this is still like the middle of that scene.
Oh, I know.
And then it ends with, we're married.
Yeah.
Cut to the party that we kind of talked about a little bit, where for the first time we're at like 34 minutes in. And then it's non-Beethoven, and we're like, wait, what?
What?
Huh?
That's when Tony Curtis starts scheming, kind of.
Yes.
Before that,
Before that was just racism. Now he's actually scheming.
Yeah, he is trying to get Michael Cassius, who... It's very confusing because they go back and forth between calling him Michael and Cassius. I understand that because people have first and last names, especially in military, but they don't introduce him as Michael Cassius. They introduce him as Cassius. Then they're like, hey, Michael is doing this thing. And they're talking about him without him being in the room. And therefore, and then he comes over. Iago's trying to get him drunk so that he will act a fool at the wedding. I guess.
I got so confused because there's Cassius and there's another guy who sort of looks like Cassius.
Oh, I know, yeah.
And I wasn't sure who was who because Iago gets one of them drunk and then a different guy who looks just like Cassius basically says something negative
about the girl that he's dating.
Right, but I wasn't sure if Cassius was the one who said that girl is a whore. or if Cassius was the one who that was said to.
Well,
was so
here's what it is.
Tell me.
That's Bianca, who is the girl that he ends up with later on throughout the movie. That's the girl that he's going to all the time.
But Bianca's dating Iago.
No, that's Emily.
No, because Bianca, they call her Bianca to her face, and Bianca, no, because Bianca's the one who says the thing about, I'm dating Iago, he's impotent and effeminate.
That's Emily.
No, that's Bianca. They call her Bianca in that scene.
No, that's Emily.
I swear to God they do.
No.
I fucking hated this movie. I actually wrote down...
Well, and they cast Emily, and I think what you're getting held up on is Emily and Bianca look very similar.
Is that what it is?
It's so hard. A lot of these people were cast with almost duplicates in that cast.
Okay.
As tertiary characters.
Because this is where I was, like... I mean, this whole movie just kept falling apart from... I actually wrote down, and I very rarely do anything like this. I just wrote down, I hate this.
Yeah.
It's like the writer heard about Othello, but doesn't get anything about Othello.
Yeah.
About its conniving.
They read the spark notes of this.
Because basically all they take from Othello is racist white guy takes down black guy by making black guy thinks he has an affair. And if we're really going to talk about this, and really going to really talk about this...
Sure.
Othello in itself is racist. Very racist, because one of the things that it suggests is that black men can't control their tempers.
Right.
And that if they think someone's having an affair, they're going to do whatever they can, and they're going to go blind with rage and murder.
Right.
So this movie follows that same track.
Well, and it follows it in the same way that in both the movie and the play, he doesn't feel like he has any temper whatsoever. And then at the very end, he snaps and goes crazy and murders her. I mean...
No, but in the play, he does have, like, you can see the budding temper. Like, you could see it kind of there.
I suppose I've seen varying degrees of quality.
Because, look, this is also something I wrote down. Othello has the emotional range of a staircase.
Yep.
And that's part of the issue, is, like, the entire movie, he's like, well, that is fine, Iago. Well... Blah,
Don't
blah,
worry
blah, blah.
about this.
Blah,
That's
blah, blah,
fine.
blah, 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 blah. And then when he snaps, it's like, what the fuck? Like, and again, like, I mean, I think that's part of the whole issue of this movie. And I know I'm just going to, like, I'm just jumping all over the place at this point. But, like, I never believed for a single second that he ever loved Desdemona. So the whole movie doesn't work. I never believed for 1 second that he was a person who has a temper, so the whole movie doesn't work. I never believed for 1 second that he, as the writer, understood the racist undertones of Othello in and of itself, that he then puts into this movie, and basically what he's doing is he's basically saying, I hate to say this, like, like, the quote-unquote moral of Othello in many ways is that, like, the black man is so dumb that you can trick him into murdering because of his rageful temper. And that's what this movie does. And he does nothing in any way, shape, or form to
subvert it.
To combat that, to change that. He just falls into the same trappings. So the movie is just, like, in some ways you don't even feel bad for Othello because it's just racist trash on top of racist trash, which is really terrible to say because it is written by a black man. And I know I'm standing on a soapbox, and I know I'm, like, white-splaining the shit out of this. But, like... The thing of it is, it just becomes frustrating.
Along those lines, you know what? It's interesting. It felt like the themes and perception of the play were not advanced, but the skin of it was. Like the
literally the skin of it.
Literally the skin. Literally the
racist skin of it.
Absolutely. But what I'm saying is the setting is new. The setting is modern. The dialogue is modern-ish, at least translated, and the situations are modern. Fine, but it's not as if it was reinterpreted for the 80s.
No,
with an 80s sensibility. It was as if all of the things, all of the perception of women, all of the perception of minorities, all the perception of homosexuals, and any other thing that they slander. I'm sure there's more that I'm missing.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that was a big thing, is they kept calling Iago effeminate, and then at the end she calls him the
drops the F.
Blah, 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 blah,
Yep. The other bad F.
The other bad F word. There's that moment. This
fucking hell.
The fucking hell.
That's the one I will say.
There were several bits of dialogue in here that were so unintentionally funny. Like the moment where Cassius is sleeping with... So this is where I was confused by, because Cassius slept with...
Bianca.
Okay. I'm just going to go with it. I trust you. But Iago says about Bianca, you should marry that girl. And Cassius goes, her? She's garbage.
What the hell?
Which was one of those lines where, like, he said that, and I laughed so hard because it was so irreverent and stupid. There's another moment where Bianca, and Iago says to Bianca, did you know about Didi and Cassius? And Bianca goes, who? Didi? I laughed again. I was like, he just fucking said Didi. He just said it.
I know. Also, that was confusing because Max B, writing this script, did not understand how to introduce people or things. Did you ever see Inherent Vice?
Yes.
That is a movie, and I understand that those books, Thomas Pynchon?
Yeah.
He does that a lot. He introduces that concept of a person before he introduces the person.
Sure.
Have you ever noticed that? Especially in that movie, they're talking about 15 different people that we haven't even met yet in a conversation between two people, and then we're supposed to memorize all those things
names
and those relationships that they talk about. Well, in this, they would introduce Cassius, but then in a conversation later on, they'd be talking about Michael, and we're like, wait a second, hold on. If I didn't know the play, I wouldn't know that Michael Cassius is the same dude. Also, they did that with Didi. They said, oh man, I've been hanging out with Didi. We've only been introduced to her as Desdemona.
Well, for the
and
whole
Desdemona
first 40 minutes of the movie, she's only Desdemona.
Exactly.
To the point where, anyway, Didi threw me off. I was like,
exactly.
who the fuck is Didi?
Man, it's like watching a high school play take Romeo and Juliet and set it in modern day Chicago,
but they're
and the
space cowboys. Space cowboys.
Look at how we're modernizing it and making it relevant to today.
What light through yonder spaceship breaks?
But they're actually not. They're not doing anything to advance the. No, they're not. They're not finding a way to have it relate to modern struggles that people are having.
Yeah, it's incredible. So one of the things I should mention is for listeners who don't know, I do teach. I teach at a college, and one of the things I teach is script analysis, where you literally just analyze the script. Mm-hmm. And it's funny that you're talking about this because in this class, that is, and it's funny that you mentioned Romeo and Juliet. This is one of the exact things I talk about. Oftentimes, what we do as people is we like to take a concept and put it on top of something else. So we shoehorn in
a hat on a hat.
It's a hat on a hat, and we shoehorn in something that doesn't make sense, that is confusing, that is unclear, right? Because we think it's going to make that other thing more interesting, right? So this is how we get those productions of Romeo and Juliet that are like
1940 Chicago,
right? And it makes no sense whatsoever because you are putting something on top of something else.
Yes,
and you're not using the text of the thing itself. You're not spending the time to analyze the text. And that's because you're often looking at the text in broad strokes. You can take any text and pull out the wrong lessons from it. So one of the things that I often talk about is, you might see a movie and you might go, man, you know what? I hated that movie because I love dogs and that movie is anti-dogs. I know that because in that movie, that guy kills that dog, right?
Yes.
Well, I've kind of just described John Wick.
Yep.
And would you ever in a million years call John Wick anti-dog?
No. In fact, it was the most positive dog.
Pro-dog.
Pro-dog because he destroys a man's life and an entire thing.
To get revenge
for the dog.
For the dog that he loves,
yes.
Right? But I've heard people talk about John Wick being anti-dog because that happens. I once successfully argued that Romeo and Juliet is actually a love story between Friar Lawrence and Romeo. But that's because I cherry-picked certain facts of the script, right?
Yes.
Which is really easy to do.
Yep.
Okay, so what I'm getting at is, that's what it feels like that's happened here. Is he's cherry-picking certain facts from Othello and shoehorning something in on top of that to create something that is not real to the production, and it misses the point.
Yeah.
The reality of what you should be doing is looking at every single piece descriptively, looking at every single moment separately, and actually talking about what literally happens. This happens, and this happens, and this happens. Track it all the way through. Then you can place a concept on top of it.
I think he got to that point and then didn't figure it out. What he did was actually do it too literally. I think what he did was he found the beats of the play and just, rather than analyzing them, then he missed a step in between. He knew what the actions in the play were. Because there were quite similar, like when Cassius gets drunk at his party.
Sure.
That happens in the play, and he disgraces himself in front of Othello, and Othello has to reprimand him, and then he goes to Didi or Desdemona to apologize, and by their interacting, that sparks the jealousy, and here and there and here. Yes, the handkerchief. Exactly. But and that's what I'm saying is he plays it beat by beat, but he's not. He doesn't understand the intention behind those beats.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yes, he does, and this is the danger of what happens when you don't spend the time analyzing something properly. Because yes, he understands, like he knows the broad strokes.
Yes,
but what he doesn't understand and what he doesn't dive into, or even seem to care about, is the why behind those broad strokes.
Right.
So he's taking these story elements that he's making up about some rando war in like 3 random countries, kind of placing it on top of something else without truly explaining or understanding what Shakespeare was getting at, what those moments were, why they happened the way they happened. I mean, I feel like 90% of the issue with this movie is we have no solid footing as far as who anyone actually is in the grander scheme of the world.
No.
We understand that he's called General Othello, but what is he a general of?
Yeah.
Where is the war? Why are they there?
Why are they training in Taekwondo or whatever the hell they were doing?
Oh, and there's all this
at the beginning.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, all the really random close-ups of soldiers where I was like, are we supposed to know who that is?
There was one spooky part
who that is?
Where a close-up on a unknown soldier, I don't know who it was, but he was like stroking his gun.
Yes.
I heard it when I said it, and I was expecting you to grab onto that.
Nope, I grabbed onto something else instead.
He was rubbing his gun in a weird, suggestive way, and I don't know why, and I don't know if he was one of the people that... It was so unclear.
Well, that was the thing is, like...
Also, half the shots were out of focus.
That's true, too.
Even if this was sampled down and horrible quality... I'm pretty sure that they shot it out of focus.
Not on purpose, but it was
not on purpose, but accidentally. Yeah.
I feel like I'm done talking about this movie.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, if you've seen the movie,
if you've seen Othello,
if you've seen the play,
it follows the beats, but it doesn't actually follow any of the intentions.
Yes, and to be honest, I can't think of many things in this that are canon, or that. Well, I can think of a couple of things that are canon, but I can only think of like 1 or 2 things that I would even deign to get close to stealing because they're probably done better in other movies. Yeah.
Wait, before we get there are two quotes that I want to say that killed me. One is when Didi and Othello were having their big moment at the end, Othello traps her in the room and she goes, "What happened to us? You insult me, you call me a whore, and now you lock the door." Which I don't know why.
Oh my god.
That was one of those lines where I laughed. Again, I laughed.
Well, it's the delivery. It's the
rhyme.
It's the rhyme. It's the progression of those things.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where it's like, as a writer, you should know that whore and door rhyme. And when whore and door come out next to each other like that, that makes people, like, that'll make people giggle.
Well, and also one of his responses was, "I'm not a busboy you can dismiss with a tip."
Yes.
Like, what do you mean? That's not even poetic.
Also, busboys don't get tips. It's the waiter, or they get tipped. Never mind.
Yeah,
I don't need to explain the
one thing she says afterwards.
Yeah.
is, I don't know if you wrote this one down, but, and this was the one piece of clever writing, I think.
Okay.
And this may even be from the translation of the play, but she says, "I'm not even going to waste my breath defending myself."
That was a great line.
That's a great line.
That was a really great
That's
line.
arguably, like, probably the best line in this movie.
Well, it's certainly better than the place where... So this movie did make me laugh a bunch. Always at inappropriate times.
Yep.
Never because of the inappropriate things said, but because of the dialogue or the wording or the delivery of certain things just made me laugh. Because I'm a horrible person, apparently.
Yep.
When he kills her, he goes,
"Warning. Loud noise in 3, 2, 1.
and he screams her name. I don't know why. I lost my shit.
That feels like a Darth Vader no.
It really did.
Like,
it really
oh,
did.
Wow. Well, and also, while he's killing her, that is the flattest delivery of "shut up, be quiet, shut up, shut
Yeah.
up, be quiet, be quiet, shut up, what up?"
Quiet, Yeah, I don't have a lot to steal from this movie.
There are a couple more awful lines. First of all, I just remembered one from when the dad comes to find her.
Oh, Jesus.
This one, I laughed at the ridiculousness of the racism, but...
Well, he was definitely almost like a...
he was like a Yosemite Sam.
I was going to say, yeah, one step away from being Snidely Whiplash.
Yes. It was, "What are you doing with him? Don't you know that these people practice witchcraft?"
Oh, my God. That's right.
Holy shit.
What is happening?
I don't know if that was a direct line from Othello, but that's felt so out of place for the time.
Yes.
Again, that's one of those things where it's like, wait, who still in 1982 holds the belief that black people practice magic?
Well,
I mean,
and this is one of those things where,
what?
like, right, absolutely. Well, and this is one of those things where, like, I hate to say this, and in no way do I mean to defend that racist asshole.
No, not at all.
But if we knew that they were on some sort of island where that island maybe had voodoo practice on there, in 1982, voodoo and witchcraft, even today, voodoo and witchcraft are linked. And they're not linked in any way, shape, or form,
no.
to be very clear. But, like, that line might not be so weirdly funny and out of the blue and so ridiculous.
I guess.
If they were on an island where you're like, okay, this is
misunderstanding and stuff.
Okay. But again, it's not a misunderstanding. Like, okay, I get it. But like, but like that feels vital because that I guess what I'm getting at is like that makes him less cartoony
for that specific line. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
But you know, everybody's sort of a arch character in this. But what frustrated me the most is how this was made before I was born. This was made before my comprehension. Well, I was only 2 years off, but this was before my comprehension, and I don't know how racist the world was in 1980. But personally, it feels like 1500s, the early 1600s maybe, had a different level of racism and a different overtness of racism than the 1980s, where that's the problem of taking this movie and just almost directly translating it into 1980s words, is that people were more discreet. People would have been more discreet with their racism, I think. They would have been more, quote-unquote, polite.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
racism still existed. Racism was
yes,
still
of
horrible.
Course.
But the racists understood that they couldn't say those things in public the
same way
they could.
I mean, it's
so now they're hiding under the rock.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's not like it's 2019.
Right, where racists
people
can come
were
out and say
more
exactly
polite back
they
then.
want.
Yes, exactly. So that's my point. Is like there's one where I know that Bianca or Emily was pissed off, but your soul is as black as your skin. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. When she finds out that Dee Dee is dead, she rushes back out, and she's the one who fingers Iago as the bad guy, and also blames. She calls Othello a fool, and she actually says that line to him. And I was like, good God, there is no reason. You would have had to make this so over the top I think that's also a problem, is that it was too middle of the line. It was too realistic to have this weird flowery language. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Couldn't this have conceptually been done if they hadn't stuck so damn close with the stylistic modernization of the language?
Yeah.
I think
know.
I don't know.
This is so...
I don't even
know.
think that this deserves any more discussion.
Yeah, I was
What do you
going to say... Yeah, I mean, that's kind of...
Anything that you want to steal?
Oh, well, I just wanted to say,
go.
the thing about, which is that Tim Blake Nelson movie that we mentioned earlier. That modernizes the language a lot, but also keeps some of the flowery beautifuln's of it, right?
Yeah.
And it... when in the hands of somebody who knows, and I'm not saying is a perfect movie, but what I will say is that by the way, if you do go see the ending is really tough because it's a high school version, and I don't want to give anything else away, but just know that like it becomes even more difficult for today's modern audience.
Got it.
I think in many ways, but going back to in and of itself. It's a movie that has both the heightened language and the modern and the racism and all of that stuff, and it still somehow works. So I don't know if it's the combination of those two things coming together as much as it is the complete failure by everyone who was working on the movie
that's fair.
To make it work.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah, so what to steal? I mean, I don't know. I felt like Tony Curtis really was trying to sell it and give it his all. I think some of the problem, though, is Tony Curtis is naturally humorous. He plays a lot of funny roles.
Yeah.
And he sort of plays this like a Borscht Belt mensch at times. Yep. He was right out of a Neil Simon play.
Especially when he was acting like a good guy.
Yeah, well, and then like
that was the hardest.
The rubbing of the shoulders, like, hey, listen here, buddy, listen here. You got to get a. Actually, he was like Rodney Dangerfield. At times, like a racist Rodney Dangerfield.
Well,
yeah, I didn't want to go there.
Sure.
And then I really thought, so this stole from a better movie, I think, where all the people are jumping out of the plane, where they use the music cue. Early in the movie, when they use the Beethoven
when they
cue.
used. Which one was it?
I don't even remember.
I think it was Symphony Number 5.
That's what it was, right? Yes.
Yeah.
But what it made me think of was how awesome the scene in Apocalypse Now was.
Oh my God! Yes.
When they're using Wagner.
Dun, da, da, da,
Yeah.
da, da,
Flight of the Valkyrie.
Yes.
Yeah, right. With the helicopters, and it felt like a bad rip-off of that.
It
so
did.
I guess one of the things I learned about this movie is if you're going to steal something from a movie, you can't borrow it. You need to steal it and make it your own.
Make it your own, yes.
And that goes back to that quote about good writers borrow, great writers steal.
Yeah.
Because anything that seemed interesting felt borrowed. I would even go so far as to say that he borrowed Othello. He didn't make Othello his own.
Agreed.
And I think at the core, that's the big issue.
Yeah.
This didn't have the authorial stamp that it should have had. So
yeah, I mean, he still credited Shakespeare.
Yes.
So,
and we've been talking about this movie for over an hour, and honestly, I think it's getting... I mean, we talked about it 55 minutes too much. We should have just quoted all of our things that made us laugh or horrified, and then moved on.
Yeah.
I hate to be this down about a movie.
Me too, but when it's not even that it was an 80s movie. It's not even that it was an of its time movie. It's that it was ignorant even of its time.
Yeah. And I guess this is one of the questions that we should even ask ourselves, because for me, what this podcast has always been about is celebrating movies that may not be great. It shouldn't be about making fun of movies.
No.
But when you come across a movie like this, that there's not much to celebrate, I think one of the questions we should even be looking at is like, how do we even talk about it? Other than how we talked about it. But in some ways, though, I feel, honestly, I feel bad. I feel like we've berated this.
Yeah, and especially bad for Max B.
Right.
Because that's a hell of a big responsibility to be directing, writing, and starring in something.
And this is the third
Holy
movie
shit.
that he did that for.
Oh my God.
He made 3, but also we should say
3 out of 3.
He only made 3 movies.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
No, it's a huge undertaking, and I mean,
it's more movies than we made.
It is, and I'm
But-
sure it's an iconic role
Sure.
that anyone would want to play. Not everyone should,
Yes.
is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But it is one of those iconic...
I was just laughing because
No, I
of the
know.
list of white people who played that role.
Exactly. Oh, Laurence Olivier. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Come on, guy.
He was at least in the 40s.
I know.
Anthony Hopkins did it in the 80s.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Let's
So
let's
maybe
not
the
go
80s
back
was
to that.
more racist than we thought.
Maybe so. But my point is, what even is my point? No. Yeah. It's a maybe a vanity project
Sure, it
to
is.
show that he can do all of these things, act as Othello, direct Othello, rewrite Othello. Like that's
is
a
a
lot
vanity
to
project.
that's a lot to
So
bite
this is
off.
the last movie he made.
So, and now he's, I don't know, a
Somewhere.
journalist doing something.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah,
feel
we're-
bad.
I
In some
think
ways,
we-
I feel bad.
No, I do
just,
too.
But I just don't know how to...
It's a huge undertaking. It didn't go well. It's, again, pretentious to think that you can improve or even tackle the bard. It's very, very difficult. But to try to do all three of those things, nigh impossible. Few people have done it. I think we're wrapping up. I think
Yeah.
that's about it. I liked the modernization of the tape recorder concept. I mean, it's, again, been done in a lot of different things, but, I mean, Kevin McAllister does it in Home Alone 2, or
Yes.
Home Alone. But I just like that modernization of the concept of overhearing a conversation,
Right.
and making it sound like it's about something
Something
else.
else.
Although, if you did it in a way that somebody could live hear you and you were manipulating the conversation, it's much more impressive. So, anyway, yeah.
Just quick mentions. This was part of the Go-Go Boys years. The Go-Go Boys didn't produce it. They just purchased it so they could put it out.
Got it.
The movie technically has 3 titles. One is simply Othello. One is simply The Black Commando.
Yep.
And then the other is Othello, The Black Commando. We already mentioned it was filmed. And then I thought this was really interesting is George Papard was the first person announced for Iago before Tony Curtis.
Oh, I was going to say, hopefully not for
Othello.
Othello. Yeah.
But then
Interesting.
it's interesting that he got out, and I'm wondering
If he read it.
if he... Yeah, exactly. Anyways, so you wanna ask me a specific question, AJ?
I do. And here it is. What is next week? That is the question, Nick.
Well, next week is... Well...
Yes.
I mean, if you're following the calendar, next week, we move from September to Shocktober.
Oh, no one's ever used that.
Yeah, no, I actually just stole that from the New Beverly calendar that they always call October Shocktober. But we're going to do something, I think, a little different this October, where we are going to start off with a little bit of cannon fodder.
Okay.
When Menachem Golan decided that he wanted to, along with Tom Savini, remake Night of the Living Dead. So we're going to start off with 21st Century Pictures' 1990s Night of the Living Dead. And then I think we're going to, not to give too much away,
No.
but we're going to spend basically all of October doing a bunch of cannon fodder that all have to do with Night of the Living Dead and other zombie movies attached to Night of the Living Dead.
Month of the Living Dead.
Month of the Living Dead. Month of the zombie cannon fodder.
Brains.
I'm super
We
excited.
have no brains. We don't have any brains. We're stupid. We're silly, dumb people.
What's this wee shit, motherfucker?
You're pretty dumb, too.
Aw,
Calm down.
thanks. Yeah, so I'm actually really excited about
too.
this month. I think it'll be a lot of fun. We are kind of moving off the canon train. I know I'm not allowed to watch movies other than canon movies, but these are all related to canon in one way or the other.
Luckily, they have some tenuous hold
They
to
do.
it. Yes,
so I
exactly.
feel like it's okay. And then early November, we'll get back onto... And again, this doesn't, I think, break the form of our podcast because it is all under canon fodder, which I think is great. The end.
Which is a great way to cheat.
Which is a great way to cheat.
Cool.
Well, I mean, honestly, just what happened is Othello broke us.
We're gonna do something for us now.
Yeah.
Something fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been doing all of this for Yoram Globus and Menachem Golan the whole goddamn time, and now we need to do something for us.
It's my time.
It's our time, Go-Go Boys.
Yeah.
It's time for the Pod Boys. No. Did I just really do that?
You did just say Pod Boys.
No.
Keeping it in.
We are the Pod Boys from now on.
Oh, no. The Crecan?
Crecan Boys?
Crecan Boys.
No, I don't like that.
I don't like
Pod
that
Boys.
either. Pod.
Pod Boys.
All right, Nick,
Okay.
for being one of the Pod Boys, where do we follow you?
You know what? Just don't follow me this week after this movie.
That's
I'm
probably
going to be
best.
in my room,
Okay.
sad, crying about life. And if you wanted to know what that's like, just check out at Nicholas C. Pappas. Both.com and on Twitter.
And if you want to hear me lamenting this episode, you can follow me at the AJ Hamilton.
Why were you talking like Hank Hill for a second?
I was not. That's not
If
true.
you want to hear me lament in this episode, it's like Bill Clinton meets Hank Hill.
I did not want to watch that movie. I did not.
That was decidedly more wholesome than I thought that was going to go for.
And you can follow both of us at Creating Cannon, that's CANNON, and creatingcannon@gmail.com. And wrapping it all up, what do we say? Nicholas!
Good night and good cannon. This is the saddest episode ever.
It was.
Tony Curtis. Curtis? Let me try that again. Because he is a colonel. Tony Curtis.
That's going in.
Tony's anus.
That's going into
This is
Tony's ain't.
Not the greatest. Not the greatest. I
Not
think
see?
I just accidentally said Nazi greatest, but
What's the word for...
don't say it. It's racist.
Okay.
C-O-L...
O-N-E-L?
Yeah.
Was that right?
Yeah, but where does the R come from?
Colonel? Colonel?
Dum, 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 dum.
What is that?
That was my...
Is that our
awful-
song?
That was the Cannon theme. That's really not good, though. Excuse me, sir. Stop right there. I do not enjoy what you are doing. Hey, AJ. Hey, AJ.
Yeah, Nick.
Hey, AJ, start the pod, so start the pod. Hey, AJ.
Yeah?
Hey, AJ.
Okay. All right.
Did you know that Othello, popular... Never mind.
That's neither here nor there.
I like how we both fucked up our words.